But now we're going to talk about something completely different. It is called EditMentor, and to talk about that is the inventor himself, Misha Tenenbaum.
What's up, everybody? I have literally been dreaming about coming here, giving this moment for years now. I consider this group of people to be sort of my my peers and my professional colleagues, and so this stage for me is kind of holy. And so I only like to make presentations when I have something really good to announce, and that something is here today. Yeah. So some of you guys know me as an editor in my former life, and many of you know me also from EditStock. EditStock, as we mentioned, is a company that sells unedited footage to practice editing with. But what you might not know about EditStock is that it's actually an educational company, and that a lot of our customers are some of the sort of most prestigious film schools in the nation and in the world, really. And because I interact with so many teachers, and because I'm just sort of intensely curious about teaching in general, I used to actually teach Final Cut Pro. I went down this rabbit hole of what is learning and what is teaching and what is, how is it that we teach editing? How can we approach it a new and interesting way? And so this presentation tonight is actually just as much about learning, literally the act of learning, as it is about EditMentor. So some books for you, should you be interested in learning about learning. I'll leave these up for a minute. Make It Stick is probably the one that had the biggest impact on EditMentor, and we'll be talking about some takeaways from that in a minute. Peak is more about how people who achieve very high levels of success, how do they make it and what do they have in common? And Outliers is similar. It's written by Malcolm Gladwell, who's the 10,000 hours of practice guy, if you've heard of him. Okay, so what is it? Like, how is it that human beings learn? And the way that we do it is practicing, okay? That is it. And specifically, actively practicing. And the reason I say actively is because when you think back, when you reach back in your mind to find some piece of information that's buried in there, that's actually how you're creating the pathway to remembering it the next time. So being active, participating, is really important. That's different than watching a video or reading a book. Even reading a book, if you were to quiz yourself a week later, retention is very low. So the other thing about practicing is that you should know that you're practicing. You should be deliberate about it. Deliberate means purposeful and intentional. And once you start thinking like, I'm intentionally practicing, all of a sudden you can be systematic about it. Okay, so systematic is really important. You take a big idea, you break it down to small parts, each of which you're trying to master. Okay, like if you're practicing baseball, you don't just go up and take 100 swings and you're done. You think about, am I stepping in the bucket? Am I squishing the bug? Am I keeping my elbow up? You guys know those? Okay, I know. And then the other part about learning that's really important is checking your knowledge and quizzing yourself on what you don't know. And this is where coaches and teachers come in, because they provide you the feedback that you need to find the holes in your game, because the stuff that you know really well, you don't need to practice. You need to practice the stuff that you're still learning about. Okay. All of that thinking led somewhere. Thank God, because it was a lot of thinking. And this is what I'm here to present to you. So what the heck is EditMentor? It is software designed to teach and learn editing. Specifically, it focuses on the creative craft of editing, which is something that we don't have a lot of tools to teach you other than videos and books, which, as I said, are important but pretty passive. EditMentor is also a ramp, but not a replacement to other editing software like Premiere or Avid Media Composer or DaVinci Resolve or whatever else you use. And next, it works with existing curriculum. It's not actually supposed to replace any curriculum. This is actually a really important point because there was this struggle in our industry that probably many of you felt here. When I was a kid, there wasn't enough hardware for everyone. So like your first years of learning were all theory, and then you would get your hands on the equipment only junior, senior year. But then when equipment became ubiquitous, it was, you should be working on the gear day one and out the window with the curriculum. Well, I'm here to tell you that you actually need the curriculum. You need both things. So EditMentor is designed to work alongside your curriculum like homework. Also, it's designed for anyone, any age, starting from middle school, high school, and up. Okay, here's where we are in the process. Many years of thinking about this program. Probably five. I mean, I had the idea almost at the same time as I had the idea for EditStock. Then we got here tonight. That's what we're doing. Next week, we're going to start beta or alpha testing, rather, with real students in a classroom. And then in November, we'll start beta testing, which hopefully means that the public can try it without me sitting over your shoulder yelling at you, and then, or telling you that I promise I'll fix that. And then, hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to launch. So we get a little spaceship. I know, I made that. Okay, are you ready to see it? Here it is. This is EditMentor. And the first thing you'll notice is it looks like editing software. That is because it is, in fact, editing software. It's browser-based editing software. I'm just running Google Chrome right now, which means that anyone can use it. You can log in at the library. You can log in on any computer. It doesn't have to be a Mac Pro tower with 100 gigs of RAM. The other thing about it is the interface of it is very familiar. It sort of mocks what Premiere looks like. And in the future, we're going to add skins to it so that you can actually have it simulate other types of editing software. In fact, we've even set some basic buttons like V and B to be insert and overwrite edit. And while you can do basic editing tasks, like I'm just going to make some cuts, so here's like a cut, and here's like moving some shots, and we've got snapping now, which was recently added. There's always this underlining element of EditMentor, which is that it's for teaching. So we have a button over here to reset the timeline back to how you started for the students. The other thing that's new about EditMentor is this window here, which we're calling the instructor window. The instructor window is an interactive spot. So right now it's for videos and tutorials, but in the future it could be even more interactive. We also have, and not only can you, play a video, an editor needs to be able to watch it and analyze it, figuring out which shots need to be taken out and not just added. Okay, so you can imagine, insert your favorite editor giving a tutorial here. We have a course description too that you can give. So we can actually add some text. But this is what really makes EditMentor special, is this challenges tab. So you can see I've got one grayed out challenge, and that's something that we are about to do. Okay, here we go. Let's start the challenge. And it says, watch the sequence below. Delete the extra shot. Submit the answer when you're done. Now, I will tell you that this is, we have a tiny bug in the timeline, and while I can play it, and I'm going to, on the cut points, we do get a little bump.
I figured out a way to get the money. Oh yeah? How's that? Well, I'm gonna need your help. Hey, what are you doing? Before I tell you, I need to know that you're in.
Okay. So I'm going to play the scene again, but this time I'm going to play it without those little hiccups. And I'll just play it in the source monitor. Oh, I should probably tell you what to do. Take a look at, see this number right here? Okay. You're going to watch that number and tell me which shot needs to be taken out of the timeline.
I figured out a way to get the money. Oh yeah? How's that? Well, I'm gonna need your help.
Hey, what are you doing? Before I tell you, I need to know that you're in.
Okay. Raise your hand if you think you know what the answer is, if you've got a good idea of what the answer is. Okay, put them down. Who wants to see the scene one more time? Does anyone? We've got just a couple, 3, 4. Okay, who thinks the answer, okay, who wants to raise their hand and take a guess on the answer? Go ahead, yeah. Number 7. Number 7, what's your guess? 7. Anyone have an answer that's different than 7? 4. 6. 2. Okay, 2. 2. Okay. 2 is a very common response. Let's keep 2 and 7 in our head. And before we show what the answer is, let's get a hint. Because EditMentor can give you a hint. You could take this shot out and play the timeline and not even know it was gone. Okay, so let's try taking this out. And as I go to take this shot out, you notice that some of the buttons, they have a line through them. You can't actually do it. I can't add a marker right now. And the reason is, remember, EditMentor is going to be an on-ramp to other editing software. So we're actually turning off all buttons that are not related to the exercise. And in fact, they won't even be on your interface once we start working on the skins. You will literally only have one button. And in this exercise, we're working on deleting clips. So I'm going to use the ripple delete key. And let's just play it back and see if we really can take that shot out. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of, well, there was a bad cut in there. That's my fault.
Way to get the money.
We'd kind of be cutting like from her to her, right? It'd be kind of like a jump cut. So let's just undo that. Let's try cut 7, ripple delete. Pretty good, right? Well, let's see if we're right. I'm going to press submit answer. And it actually tells you, you got it right. Yay. Woo! A room full of editors got it right. Okay. Shot 7 isn't needed at all. It's very short. It adds no new information to the scene. And you learned a new editing rule. And this gets cooler. Why is number 2 wrong? In fact, it's partially correct. You could do it. This is the most common incorrect choice, but you could take this shot out. We'd have a jump cut, though. So one thing that I noticed, and I mean, I didn't notice, this was told to me very explicitly many times by many people in our prototyping, is that even when people get the answer right, they like to go back and see why they got what the wrong answers were, because all these wrong answers have little tidbits of information in them. So number 3 is useful, or like, we could certainly edit this scene without using this shot. That said, the shower head turning off gives us an idea that of what Vivian is thinking. Okay. It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of writing, yeah. So actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it's a lot of work. No, so I was on this stage a couple of years ago kind of introducing the concept of this, like long before this was worked out at all. And someone said to me, like, you cannot, editing it's subjective. You cannot have an objective, answer to these questions. And so that's an important point, and there is some truth to that. But of course, you can make tailor-made correct answers, but you can also have multiple correct answers, multiple incorrect answers, and multiple partially correct answers. And we're going to see more of that in a second. So I'm going to go to the summary page, and it says, congratulations. You passed the challenge. We had one challenge to do. Your score was 10. This summary page is important. And it's important because of that score. So just imagine you're a teacher now. You can assign a class homework on editing, or a quiz on editing, or a test on editing. Are you guys getting scared or excited? I can't tell. We're going to talk more about what the points can do for us in a minute, but for now, you did it. Now let's go back to let's go back to those ideas about how it is that people learn. Okay, so I'm going to play this lesson on understanding wide shots, and this one actually has 4 challenges to it. And so the first thing we're going to do is, add a marker to the shot that you would consider a wide shot. So we literally just watch this sequence.
What the hell was that? Did you see that? Oh, Jim, what the hell kind of dump did you leave them in there? I mean, I've heard...
Okay, so this middle one, right? I'll add a marker. Notice I can't delete the shot. I'll add a marker to it, submit the answer. I got it right. We have a little bit different graphical display, which I'll talk about in a moment. So we got it right. Let's go to skip the review and go right to the summary. Next question. And now, and I won't play this whole scene, but now what the student has to do is mark all the wide shots in an edited scene. Okay, so we're building we're being active, we're participating, right? We're actually trying to do this, and we're building on this idea of systematically practicing. So like this is a wide shot, and I'm going to make some right answers and some wrong answers. I won't make you watch the whole scene. It's a whole minute, That's so long these days. By the way, if I wanted to, I could just reveal the answers right here. I could just say, show me the answers, okay? But then we won't score any points, and we don't want that. Okay, submit the answer, and I got 1 right, this one wrong, this one wrong, this one right. Thank goodness. 50%, almost. Okay, next question. So now we're still working with wide shots, but this time the editor is given the entire daily, right?
Marker.
You got to imagine this student has probably never seen dailies before in their life. Okay, and now we're learning, when did an editor use this wide shot?
And action.
And so we would, for example, add a marker here as John came in, and maybe some other spots. Okay, and each lesson is telling us a little bit more information. Now that you've learned to look for a wide shot in a scene, let's look at it, in some raw footage. We learned that wide shots are for big actions. And now we're going to look at a wide shot from a totally different movie. And we would say, where would you use this clip? Where would you think to use this shot?
This example, take 7, Mark.
Right.
Action.
I figured a way to get the money. Oh yeah? How's that? Well, I'm gonna need your help.
And so we might use it
What do you mean?
somewhere around this area, maybe when she goes in there, perhaps. Or this is one spot that we could use it. Okay, let's go back to, and we did it. So let's go back to the lessons, and let's talk about the scores. Okay, so this isn't built yet. This is like a kind of a preview. Why the score matters, other than that you can get an A or a B in your class. Well, gamification, which means turning some sort of work into a game, it amps everything up. It increases the user's interaction, and it sets achievable goals, because a lot of times what happens is editors students who are learning to edit get into this imposter syndrome, where they edit something and they show their teacher, and their teacher says it's great, and they think like, I'm the best. And then they show it to their friend, and their friend says like, actually it's terrible, I would never make it that way, and they think like, I'm the worst. But they really have like no objective way to measure their improvement. And it's really hard to do, because this is a creative craft. So by keeping track of your score, by seeing how you're answering questions right or wrong, we can see your progress develop over time. And we can award you for accomplishing things, and generally award you for doing stuff that helps you learn. Okay. The other thing that it does is it helps the teacher understand what exactly do students struggle with. Because if a lot of students, what does advanced editing even mean? I mean, does advanced editing mean slicing up a shot into lots of little bits using After Effects and making split screens? Or does it mean taking 10 scenes and making them into a montage? It can mean both things. And gathering data from the students is one way that's really going to help us, the teacher, understand how to teach you better. Okay. The other part, obviously, is with my business, EditStock, we sell movies. So you'll be able to buy movies through here, but you'll also just be able to free edit them. And we're the number one kind of customer request we get is to make more tutorials, to make more training series. And I just don't believe in that. The thing that I believe in the most is go edit the scene, send it to me, and get feedback. And now what I'll be building are challenges so that when you buy a movie, you'll be able to get the challenges that go along with the movie that train you along the way. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is very cool.
We're going to create a marketplace. We actually already have the little tab over here, where teachers will be able to create lessons and either sell them to the general public or give them away to other teachers within the school system. And in fact, teachers can pick, I'm just going to edit a lesson. Teachers can pick, for example, which students are going to be getting the lessons. They can pick what the lesson teaches and add a tag. And the reason that matters is because EditMentor will be able to generate quizzes for you. So let's say you got 5 questions wrong about how to use a wide shot. You could press create a quiz for me automatically about wide shots, and the system will know based on tags to grab 5 exercises that you got wrong or you never attempted. And there'll be different types of quizzes that you can make. We have timed projects, so you could work for 10 minutes. And of course, you can add a lesson text, and you can add a video or training video. So I'm going to add a challenge and show you guys a little bit about the lesson builder, like how do these things even get built. I'll go to the challenges tab. And when you're logged in as a teacher, you'll have this button here to create a new challenge. And I'm going to create a challenge called, ooh, there's no F. And let's give it a description of we'll learn about markers. Okay, and give a hint. Let's say, find the marker. This is like the most ridiculous lesson I could ever think of. Okay, obviously there's going to be some sections where the teacher doesn't leave any comments. So in those sections, I'm just going to have the system say, sorry, that's not quite right. We're going to say the maximum score for the lesson is 10 points. And the challenge type, and this is where things get really interesting. Right now we only have 2 challenge types, which are adding markers and deleting clips. But in the future we'll have text-based answers like true, false, multiple choice, fill in the blank. We will have where you have to use a certain number of clips from the library, or you'll have to reorder the clips in the library, or one that's one of my favorites, which is just a free edit. So you just edit for a certain number of minutes, and then at the end the system takes a snapshot and sends the teacher the snapshot of your finished work. I know. In this exercise we're going to make it about markers. And so rather the challenge type is going to be markers, and I'm just going to press record the answers. So now let's say we want to find like the line in here that has subtext.
Coming back in? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what line, this is a scene, by the way, from a movie called Reflection, which we sell on EditStock. And this girl is about to be, she's possibly going to be asked out by this guy, but he's like trying to build up the courage to do it.
Yeah. Okay. And we're rolling. Anytime. Oh, hold on a second.
He's going with it. I just want to make sure I'm not showing up in his frame. You good? I'm good with you.
Yeah, I'm good. Okay, so here we go. Standing by.
Action.
Hey,
Hey,
have fun at the, you know.
the party? Do I have a choice? Is there something else to do?
Whoa, right? Pretty suggestive. So we're going to say, like, this is the right answer, okay? This is the spot for the teacher to add the right answer. And I'm just going to add a time range and say, at this spot, the answer is correct. And in the future, it'll automatically set a limit longer than 1 frame. It'll actually look at the clip below and automatically place it over. And we'll say, if you picked this spot, you're going to score 10 points. And the message is, that's right. This is a loaded line. Subtext is, will you ask me out? And save the answer. And you can see now I've got a range, but let's check to make sure that that range is right.
Do I have a choice? Is there something else to do?
So I kind of started a little late, right? And I ended a little early. So I'm just going to drag the handle here a little bit and adjust it. And also, you know, you could argue that this spot here before is also kind of loaded, right? I mean, did you guys feel that? This part right here?
At the, you know.
The party? Do I have a choice?
Right, like, do I have a choice? Like, it's not the right answer, but it's not that wrong. So I'm going to add a marker here, and I'm just going to say that's partially correct. If you got that right, you're going to get it partially right. I could score some points here, but actually I gave all the points to the correct answer. I'm just going to say, yeah, maybe. But they didn't. Okay. And so now, any spot where the user adds a marker, or the student adds a marker, and we have a range, we're going to get an answer. And any spot where we don't, the student is going to see this default message. Here it is. Sorry, that's not quite right. I'm just going to stop recording my answers. And let's reorder the challenges a little bit. So, oh, by the way, that was a big deal. This is like what development is like, is when I get, like, you can reorder the challenges, you applaud, you know. And I can duplicate them, by the way, duplicate the timeline. Oh, and actually, this is really cool. Like, let's say I'm going to actually make a cut. Let's see, and move that apart. And let's say I wanted to use this newly edited timeline later on in the future. I actually can just take a snapshot of it. And now, no matter what I do, when I go to create a new challenge, it's going to know to use my, I said, when I cut a timeline and create a snapshot and create a new challenge, it's going to know to use my last saved snapshot. So, okay, we can actually...
Is the snapshot what we see?
Snapshot is the timeline.
The way we're looking at it right there?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's like a master snapshot that the entire lesson has, but then as you're creating more challenges, you can reorder the timeline and save a new snapshot for a new challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to, you know, update this lesson, and let's play this lesson. And was it this? No, it wasn't. It was, where was I? Understanding close-ups. Okay, and here's our LACPUG challenge. There it is. And let's, you know, let's add a marker and get it wrong. Oh, sorry, that's not right. What do you guys think? Thank you. So I just want to add, like, just kind of 2 more big points. The first big point is a common point of feedback that I get is like, well, this is only for beginners. And there's a lot of truth to that right this very second, but that's partially because there's no curriculum yet. You know, as more and more curriculum gets created, people will come up with more and more creative ways to improve the curriculum, and we'll get data back about the users, and we'll understand what it is that they're not understanding. And the tool will develop better too. So yeah, right now it might feel a little primitive, but in the future it's going to be pretty epic. Finally, I just want to say, that the point of EditMentor is really just to make editing approachable, because I think what I experienced when I was in school is like I was the one kid who wasn't scared of the buttons, and like everyone else was scared of it, and so I edited everybody's project, And what EditMentor does is it makes editing approachable for people, because it's like bite-sized little lessons. You do it for like 5 seconds, you do one thing, and then it's over, right? The other thing is it's available to everyone. If you are in a school and you have to go to the school to use the Media Lab, to use Premiere or Final Cut or Avid, you are limited, really limited, and that can be a big strain on people. But here you can log in, and it doesn't matter what computer you use, because you're using our servers to do the processing. So you could be on mom's computer, or you could be in the library, or you could be at the coffee shop, and it wouldn't matter. And then finally, it's just fun. It's just fun, right? I mean, the best class that I took at Video Symphony when I went there was a creative course. And when a teacher leaned over my shoulder and said something to me along the lines of like, oh, every time there's a joke, every time there's a question, you add a reaction shot. And it's like that little nugget that they just told me is like, now every time I watch somebody's close-up and I hear a question, I think like, you gotta add a reaction shot there. Or every joke has to have a reaction shot. And there's no reason we can't build a lesson like that. In fact, I did, but skip that. Okay, so I'm wicked early. And I want to take questions because I know you guys will have some. So who wants to brave the waters and be first? Hopefully someone.
Are you on Wi-Fi?
This is just Wi-Fi, yeah.
Huh?
This is Wi-Fi.
You have to be on Wi-Fi because the browser is.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. What's the price model? As soon as I know, I will tell you. Basically, there are a few ways. One is that schools will pay for access to the lesson builder portion. So that's like, one way. It will probably be freemium. So probably everyone will be able to create a free account to EditMentor, log in and do some free lessons. But if you want lessons from like the best instructors, you can buy their course in our marketplace. And there are a host of excellent content providers out there. That's the thing, is like, it's not that the information out there is bad. It's actually very good, and I'd go as far as to say it's the best it's ever been, like in history. There's more information, there's better information, there's more research, more time spent on these videos. It's just that problem of being passive, and that only very active editors, only really passionate and just like 100% in people spend time doing the work. Even EditStock, I know that a lot of my customers buy the footage and then never edit the scene, or edit half the scene. I mean, I'll be the first to admit too, I have a subscription to Masterclass, which I did just for that Aaron Sorkin video. I know. And I haven't watched the whole thing, and it's been like a year, right? So I know that people do that, but I also know that a big part of that problem is because you can't give people too much at once. So when you give someone who's never edited before 3 hours worth of dailies, that's a lot. That's full-time work for them for months. And then the other reason is because when you add this gamification element, this progress element where you can see your score going up, it's going to do a lot to increase like motivation, accountability, and goal setting. Do you have a question? Yeah. Oh man. That's such a great question. What is the role of the instructor in the classroom? And it is largely to identify gaps in someone's knowledge and correct them. And I have one piece of advice to instructors, which is anything that you say over and over and over again, you should turn into a lesson in EditMentor. And that's true of just so many things, but you should turn it into a tutorial video too, because you want the student to be able to like review that over and over again. The other thing that find happening a lot is the total, like, the sort of abandonment of the curriculum in general. Like, giving the students the footage and giving them a real-world experience, they learn a lot of lessons that aren't explicitly said in the footage. So, like, they see how professional dailies look, and then they mimic that when they go out and shoot their own thing. You know, so just imagine, you know, I'm always telling teachers, have them edit first, and then go out and shoot their own projects. And it's the same here. It's like, why do you even have a close-up? I mean, I bet you if you asked most high school kids, they would just say, because movies have them. I mean, they literally just don't understand what's the purpose. You know, why would you even, you know, other than I was assigned to do that. Yeah. Do I have any more questions? Go ahead.
Do you think you'd ever have an offline version?
An offline version?
Is that possible?
It is possible, but it's not in the near future for two reasons. One is that whole homework assignment thing and how it, you know, plugs into a teacher's grade book, for example. But also the point is it's supposed to be democratizing. You know, you shouldn't have to have Premiere Pro or Final Cut or whatever. Your school should just have a license and you can just log in whenever. Yeah. Yeah, there's two ideas about that. The question was about how we keep student scores. And it's touchy because there's privacy issues. For example, students aren't allowed to see each other's scores. That's actually illegal. We do have, not that page, we do have somewhere where you can actually review the scores. And so, you know, I just did this lesson, LACPUG challenge, and I got it wrong, so I have no points. But in the, you know, in the future, of course, we will be recording scores, and we're considering integrating with other LMSs like Canvas or Blackboard. But really what we're primarily initially going to do is create our own LMS, and every teacher will be able to assign which students get which projects and, you know, which lesson. You could have a lesson just for editing 101 students only. So for example, here, this lesson is for all students, but I could change it to editing 101 or 110. Oh, I promised this man in the back. So the question was about how we integrate with Premiere or for example, a Premiere panel, a Final Cut Pro extension. And so the first thing I will tell you is those panels cannot do things that the software cannot do. So making a clip light up with a hint or adding a marker over it that says correct or incorrect, a panel could not do that. And the same thing with a Final Cut Pro extension, it could not do that. But we will probably create an extension or panel so that you can do your editing in Premiere and then drag your sequence into the EditMentor panel, and it uploads your sequence and your clips that are relevant to it, and your markers perhaps that are relevant to it. It's not in the short term, but that's on our radar. So, well, the question was about the marketplace and what goes in there, right? And to start with, creating content actually takes as long as creating the software. I'm totally serious. Really good curriculum is hard to come by. Really great teachers are hard to come by, and I'm doing my best to find some good ones to put in here right away. Teachers who create their own curriculum will be able to share it with other schools at their choice or put it in the marketplace for sale. So I hope that answers your question. In the prototype, yes. So in the prototype there is shareability and like a social aspect to it. Just you know, up until about a year ago, I was very new to software development, and now I know it very well. You know, I didn't obviously code any of this, but I'm very familiar with the process now. And basically the way that it goes is you create a prototype that it's a clickable wireframe, and it has every button you hope to ever have. And you test it with customers, and they tell you what all the buttons are wrong and all the buttons should be. And then they tell you, oh, you should have thought of that idea and this idea, right? And then you show that to the developer, and then what they make is the simplest thing that gets to the very center kernel of truth of what the thing does. And that's what you're looking at. That's called the MVP, or minimum viable product. And so that's what I'm trying to get ready by November for beta testing. Then we'll add everything. Yes, you have a question. The question was about how do we regulate and make sure that the marketplace is good. Of course, in the beginning, it's easy because I just watch it all. But if there's a lot of stuff going in there, then there will have to be some kind of filtering system, and that'll probably be through ratings and rankings and price points. One of the benefits to the marketplace for creators of the content is that they can set their own price. So I'm sure we'll see some that are more expensive or less expensive based on how well they're doing. But really, it's harder than you think to create the actual exercise, because not only do you have to write the correct answer, you have to write all the incorrect answers. It's a lot of work, and I would imagine that people who take the time to do that are going to also take the time to sell it, or take the initiative, I should say, to sell it.
Time for about one more.
One more question?
And then you can
Brave
talk
soul.
to, after the raffle, you can talk to Misha.
Is anyone else? Bueller. Is it Bueller? No?
No,
Yes,
back
go
there.
ahead. That's a great question. The
Video
question was
lectures?
about, can you add a video before the lecture? Right now, you can add one. And it looks like this. So play lesson. You've got one tutorial video in here. Close-ups are used to help highlight really important lines of dialogue or other moments in a story. Watch this clip from the movie Reflection. Point out which line includes subtext. So you could absolutely have a teacher interaction there. There will be, yes, in the future you can do more than one video, but for now, one.
We have to move along. You all just saw the world premiere sneak peek of a new way of learning. EditMentor and Misha Tenenbaum.